In a clash of the number one seeds in both NBA conferences, the Phoenix Suns come out on top, beating the 76ers by double digits at home. Another win for the Suns, another classic Suns win. We'll break it all down, including why Devin Booker MVP talk may have had a role in why this game went the way that it did. Coming up on today's Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a contributor at Suns.com as well as Dime Magazine, and a credentialed media member covering this Suns team for the past 5 seasons. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen each and every day. We are so close to the playoffs. You will not want to go anywhere. Scroll down just a bit, hit that subscribe button on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform, wherever you are finding this show. You can also find us at Locked On PHX Suns to keep up with everything going on around this team throughout the rest of the season. 114-104. A Suns win that felt in doubt at the beginning, but turned into a pretty typical Suns beatdown performance in the second half. 55-40, the score in that second half. We'll talk about Devin Booker and why the MVP race is potentially, the MVP talk at the very least, is potentially actually fueling this. Talk about Monty Williams' role in this win and one unsung hero who has had an incredible stretch since the All-Star break. Guys, today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered throughout the season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Again, 114-104, the final score. Devin Booker is my MVP of the game, at the very least. He's the MVP of this one game. I don't know if he's any more than that. We will obviously continue to wait and see. 35 points on 13 of 22 shooting from the field, and 22 of those points coming in the first quarter. Did not fill up the stat sheet quite like he sometimes does. Just 2 rebounds, 2 assists, as Chris Paul took over a lot of the setting up of teammates. But here's where I want to go with Booker, because I've sung his praises in every pitch possible. I have created melodies out of the singing for weeks now. I don't have anything new. I don't think Booker showed us some new aspect of his game or some new level that he's able to get to. I mean, that first quarter was a season high for him, 22, but he didn't get 88. He didn't do 22 a quarter and ended up with just a pretty routine 35, which is saying a lot for him, but we're used to it, right? So here's where I want to go. I want to dip back into the MVP conversation, not to litigate whether him or the guy he was playing against in Joel Embiid or even Nikola Jokic or Giannis Antetokounmpo are the people who should win that award. I'm not dipping into that right now. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that between now and the end of the season. But here's where I do want to go, because I have, if you've listened before, if you've watched before recently, you will remember I'm not crapping on the idea of Booker winning MVP, but I'm not as on board as I think some Suns fans are, because I think the entirety of somebody's performance over the course of a season should be what guides this. And the beginning of Booker's season was not as good as he has been lately. And I don't think his overall play is creates as much value for his team as some other guys. I think he should get MVP votes. I think he'll be on the ballot. I think he will be somebody who is in great position to win MVPs down the line. I just don't think this season that he has the best case, but I don't think any of that actually matters. You can tell me to shut up and I'll listen to you. What matters is, and why I want to rediscover this, relitigate, cover this a little bit more today again, is that I think I'm coming around to the value of those conversations because of how much they seem to be igniting something, fueling something, lighting a fire for Devin Booker himself. And that's the really fascinating part of all this to me right now. You are seeing a player consistently reference and talk about openly some of the slights that he's perceiving and the fact that there is this sort of race and it's contested, and he is being pretty open about the fact that he doesn't think he's getting the level of consideration that he deserves. And the fact that he's talking about it makes it a little bit, well, I mean, it makes it way more interesting to me, because now it's not just about us arguing back and forth with Sixers fans or Nuggets fans or Zach Lowe versus whoever in the media. It's none of that. It is a player who has taken on that argument or that conversation, and he's wielding it. He's using it as part of what's fueling him. And you have seen a guy in Booker playing out of his mind, not only with production and the level of just performance, but he's playing out of his mind in terms of competitiveness and toughness and energy lately. And I can't help but think that that is in large part because he is hearing from fans, hearing from media members, hearing from Isaiah Thomas and whomever else that this is a real debate and that he feels like he needs to prove something. And if that's the case, and it's actually a part of what is getting him in the mindset to perform at the level he's been performing, then I think it's all worth it. He has clearly been possessed by something lately. He is finding fans in the crowd, home and away. He's finding players or coaches or whatever it might be on opposing benches every single night. He's not just playing really well. He is playing with something to prove. He's playing as some sort of point that he's getting across against these opponents and these enemies every single night. And so if that is what is happening as a result of fans turning him into an MVP candidate with their words and actions, then I am all for it. And it's actually really cool to see that back and forth. There are just so few times where you feel like fans are actually playing a role in any of this. And here it seems like that's 100% happening. And I think that makes all of it worth it. That makes all of it even more interesting and worthwhile to do. And I take back everything. I don't know if he'll win it. I don't think he'll win it. But turning it into this debate has injected life and excitement and intrigue into each and every game that he plays. And it could be the difference. I mean, he is getting himself into another gear here heading into the playoffs. And I don't think that's a coincidence either. So fans, the proximity, the closeness to when the playoffs are happening, whatever it might be, Booker is at a better level, a bigger level than we've ever seen him before. And if that MVP conversation had anything to do with it, then the fans are helping make this team better. And that's so crazy to say, but I think it's true. And go for it. Continue. Chant MVP at every game. Put stuff on Reddit or create a change.org petition, whatever you need to do, because it's clearly making its mark. Want to talk about Monty Williams' game plan here, because that was one of the most important parts of coming away with a win tonight. First, though, guys, today's show brought to you by Built Bar. It's that time of year. We are here in almost April now. It's almost my birthday, and that's how I know we are firmly in a new year. And what that can often mean once we are into the spring and moving on from the holiday season is that you've put your New Year's resolutions on the back burner. And not even New Year's resolutions. It doesn't have to be that formal, but it's maybe getting to you. Okay, I came out of the holidays. Now I'm trying to eat better, but now I've honestly already gotten out of that habit. We all go in cycles. Built Bar can be part of the solution, though. They are packed with protein. They are delicious. They're covered in chocolate. They're low calorie and low sugar. Replace your candy bars with a Built Bar, and you will not regret it. They taste better in some cases, if not exactly the same, but much, much better for you. No unnecessary sugar, very limited, just to sweeten it up enough. And then you're going to get packed with protein to fuel you before or after a workout, to get you a snack between meals that you know is healthy, whatever it might be. And then, of course, on top of the classic Built Bar, there is a new and delicious Built Bar Puff, a fan favorite, the first ever protein-infused marshmallow And guys, there are flavors for everybody. Mint brownie, coconut almond, strawberry, raspberry, orange, whatever you might like. And on the puff side, cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie, or my personal favorite, lemon cheesecake. At Built Bar, they are all about taste. They make it delicious first, and then they figure out how to make it healthy, and they pull it off every single time. So go to Built.com, peruse the offerings, and use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So you will look at the box score if you missed this game or if you're revisiting this game, and a few things will jump out. 37 points for Joel Embiid, 35 for Devin Booker, maybe the 19 and 14 for Chris Paul, maybe the fact that the Suns were out-rebounded by a little bit, but not a lot, considering the Sixers have a size advantage, especially with Embiid. That's probably where you'll go, right? Where will I suggest you look here is actually the most basic element of a box score. It's the literal score per quarter per team. And here's why I say that. 64-60 was the halftime score. The Sixers were up 4. From that point on, though, the Suns won the final 24 minutes of this game 54 to 40. 40 points allowed by the Sixers. And that is why I said I wanted to highlight Monty Williams. This segment is usually where I'll go in depth on one of the other positives of the game. Devin Booker was the key takeaway, the MVP conversation, and the way that the fans are impacting the game is the big takeaway from this game for me. But a very close second is Monty Williams. And the reason that I say it's Monty Williams is because the defensive turnaround, to me, was all about game plan. I don't feel like any one player was really just a wrecking ball defensively in this game. Yes, DeAndre Ayton at the rim. I don't think he was bad. I didn't feel like he was out of his ordinary self. No blocks, but he made a difference. Of course he made a difference. He had 11 defensive rebounds. On top of that, you had Mikal Bridges, you had Jay Crowder. Everybody was doing their normal thing. Torrey Craig the same. Bismack Biyombo protecting the rim. He did have 2 blocks. Bridges had 2 blocks. But I think the game plan is where all of this really came together and made it into something pretty special. What I mean by that is a few things. One is not sticking one player on Harden full time. So that's probably what a lot of people would look at. Who's going to guard Harden? How are they going to defend Harden when he runs pick and roll? And it wasn't the same answer every single time. And I think most great coaches, most great teams are going to tell you, if you want to slow down an elite player in the NBA, you're going to have to do more than just one thing. You can't say, here's our game plan. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to stop them. No, it's not going to happen. Instead, you want to make them not know what to expect. You want to make them second guess their own decisions. And the Suns did that very well. They had Bridges, they had Crowder, they had Booker, all taking turns guarding Harden at different points in the game. But that's just honestly the smallest part. The other things that I think really signal Monty's effect on this game tonight from a game plan perspective are the doubling of Joel Embiid, which Monty sort of laid out a little bit of their rules for if you missed them in the game while he was talking to us post-game. At the elbow, at the nail, which is basically center free throw line, at that box extended area along the baseline where he likes to go, they were not going to double team Joel Embiid. The areas where they double teamed Joel Embiid were when he was on the block and when the clock got late. I don't know if they had a specific rule, whether it was 10 seconds left in the clock, 8 seconds, 5 seconds, 3 seconds. I don't know. But it was when he was on the block, and the clock was ticking down. You would see a second body come. And what's always been impressive, this is similar to how the Suns have guarded Jokic in the past, including in last year's playoffs. It's the timing and the IQ of when to send that double team, but it's also the collective engagement that you can literally see happening in real time when the Suns turn that into a rotation on the back end, because a double team only works if you can make up the ground and make sure another shot doesn't come, because the great best players, they're going to give the ball up to the right person when they're double teamed. Devin Booker does this. Chris Paul does this. Great players know where to go with the ball. They're used to getting that attention, and they're going to create a good shot anyway. In the first half, we saw some breakdowns. Tyrese Maxey got a 3 at one point because the double didn't go well. It happened. But going late like that and then being ready to rotate, it worked to perfection in the second half. Embiid would give the ball up. The Suns would react to it. They would have a man in that new ball handler's face, and then they would scramble back to cover whatever players were open because of that rotation. And a lot of the time, there was not a good shot available. And I think that's just so crazy, one, to be able to execute it that well, period, but especially to be able to execute it that well when you don't have a lot of time. This is not a playoff series, and yet the Suns consistently come out with a perfect game plan engineered by the coaching staff, and they execute it to perfection. It sounds simple, but it is one of the many things that makes this team so consistently elite and incredible. The other coaching adjustment from a defensive standpoint that I think deserves a shout out that Monty Williams had a large hand in was the zone defense. Suns do this. We know that Suns like to play zone. It's not exactly a new phenomenon that they're pulling that out. What is new and impressive is that they did it and neutralized a pretty good team. I mean, a team with Joel Embiid and James Harden, who both can score and play make for their teammates, should be able to break a zone. But the Suns were able to mix it in, just like we were talking about with Harden. They were able to throw it in as one of many looks over the course of the game and completely stymie the Sixers offense. And to be able to put that into play and have the players know the rules, because it's sort of a matchup zone. You'll see some guys kind of step out and guard somebody. Like it turns into a man defense mode sometimes too. It's not always just stand in your spot, patrol that ground and let everything else be. And so to have those rules enforced, to have players know them, and to have it actually work against a great team, I mean, that's coaching to me too. So the second positive, the big positive from this game, a lot of the time it's a player stepping up. Tonight it was the coaching staff, and Monty and co deserve a massive round of applause for being on the right side of this one. We'll get to the bench mob vibe check here in just 1 second. I want to talk about one player in specific. He is the backup shooting guard, if that's enough of a hint for you guys. But first, today's show also brought to you by NBA Top Shot, the officially licensed NFT of the NBA, where you can connect with at NBATopShot.com, connect with a community of hundreds of thousands of NBA fans moving on from fantasy sports and upgrading your experience as an NBA fan. This is the future of what being an NBA fan looks like. And here is how it works. Trading cards, moments, as they're called on Top Shot, NFTs of some of the greatest moments in NBA history, as well as this season specifically. It's akin to a stock market for the NBA. Every day, millions of dollars worth of NFTs are traded back and forth between tens of thousands of NBA fans around the world. You also have a fantasy sports element in that every night you have the ability to capitalize in the market if you're able to predict top performers. And there's also a loyalty program aspect to it. We have folks at Top Shot who are helping users, buyers, fans of the NBA, fans of Top Shot, flying out to games of the NBA Finals, the NBA Draft, etc. So it's a way to connect real and virtual with people that love the NBA. It's a way to own a little piece of NBA history. And it's a way to compete and have fun as an NBA fan as well. There are challenges and missions you can complete with your moments. And of course, that fantasy aspect, the stock market aspect of buying and selling and getting the value that you want, etc. It's perfect. It's the perfect cherry on top of being an NBA fan. It's the future of being an NBA fan at NBA Top Shot. Own officially licensed rare NFTs of the greatest moments in NBA history by signing up today at lockedon.nbatopshot.com. That's lockedon.nbatopshot.com. Today's show also brought to you by Rock Auto. It's impossible these days, folks, to walk into a chain parts store or, heaven forbid, a dealership and expect to get what you want and to get your money's worth. Most importantly, that's just not reasonable. People are trying to nickel and dime you. There's so many cars and trim packages and models these days that, look, sometimes we don't even know what we have. You might think, okay, I have the LE, but does it have the tech package? Does it have the rear view mirrors? Does it have the heated seats? I don't remember what that's called. I'm on the spot. My battery just broke. I just need to tell them what I need. Rock Auto simplifies it. All you do, type in the car that you have, scroll down to the part that you need, click purchase, and it's at your door within days. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers online for the past 20 plus years. They keep prices low. They keep the process simple. So go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, and all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Closing out, as we typically do here with the Bench Mob Vibe Check, specifically one player, as I hinted at just a second ago, the backup shooting guard, which is, of course, Landry Shamet. 12 points today and a big step forward in the second half. One of the other things in this game that allowed the Sixers to get out to that incredible start offensively and to have a lead going into halftime is that the Suns bench was awful to start the game. Actually, you look now, and the minutes where Cameron Payne was in there, he was a minus 20. The Suns were a minus 25. When Chris Paul was out there, they were a plus 25. So that tells you a good amount of the story of just how bad the bench was at times. And Shamet was a culprit there. Right? Single digits in the first half. I think I want to say he had 4 points or so, 12 total. So steps up in that second half, makes 2 big threes when the Suns are making their run to get out to what would become the final clinching lead of the game. But plus 10 for him, as I was just saying, with Payne being a minus 25, Shamet was a plus 10. But above and beyond that, where I want to go here is the stretch that Shamet has put together since the All-Star break. And he came back right away, game one post-break. If you remember, he had been out, and then Payne took a little bit longer, but Shamet was back right away. So since the All-Star break, and this is actually not including tonight. Tonight he was 3 of 5 from deep. But in 16 games post All-Star break before tonight, Shamet was shooting 43% from deep. 43, which is good for a 61% true shooting percentage, which, if you aren't familiar, anything over 60 is pretty good company. So he has 61% there, which is fueled in large part by his three-point percentage. He's taken 86 threes and then the 5 tonight. So he has 40 of 91 from deep so far since the All-Star break. He is absolutely playing himself into the typical Landry Shamet level that we would have expected based on previous pit stops and based on the contract that he received. It's good not only for him, but for this team. The Suns are obviously playing incredible basketball with or without Chris Paul, with or without Devin Booker, with Landry Shamet in there. We saw in the Bucks game and other moments during this stretch that Shamet has actually been the guy who is taking a lot of late shots and big shots in these games because he has the versatility. He can make the three-point shot, he can make the mid-range shot, he can get to the basket, and he can play make. That tantalizing potential is still there. But 43% from deep since the break is incredible, incredible stuff. I don't think there's anywhere else to go. Today's show, guys, just recapping that Sixers game. Tomorrow I will have more, might even dig into a little bit more of this MVP thing with Booker because it is a lot. It is a lot. There's a lot talked about. There's a lot of response. There's a lot of tentacles of this thing. I think it's a really fascinating conversation and just about how we kind of look at NBA excellence and greatness right now. And I do think there's conversation to be had there. So we will talk about that. Aaron Edwards will be here Thursday and then a big Warriors game on Wednesday. So a busy, busy week. Thanks for making Locked On Suns your first listen to start each and every week. Now go make Locked On NBA your second listen to catch up on everything you missed around the league this weekend, including an interview with me. Yes, I'm on Locked On NBA. I'm also on Locked On Today. So if you want to make that your third listen, Locked On Today, I did a segment there. The Suns are great, guys. They keep calling me in, and I don't say no. So make the rounds. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Monday, and I will talk to you tomorrow.